Good day to you. What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's now 2022. We've gone into a new year, which I hate because I hate January because it's freezing and it's dark. But yeah, I thought I'll bring back some more visuals or bring some visuals to the show now. So this is the first solo pod where you can see me. But if you don't want to see me, then you can still listen to me. But this will be up on YouTube, and there will be, rather than the sound bites on Instagram, there will be a bit more of me face to face. So yeah, and I thought going into the year with the solo pods, I want to take them a bit further rather than me just waffling on about, I don't know what this is or I don't know what that is. I'd rather go into it with a bit more of a clear head and a story to back up what I'm trying to research. So I've been doing I've been doing quite a lot of research, finding out stuff, conspiracies, and different stuff. More stuff, to be honest. The internet's just full of stuff, and I mean, you got to be careful where you look because you might not come out again, and you might get stuck in a shed and never be able to leave. But yeah, it is. This one's interesting. So this is episode 9, and I'll be doing a solo pod every single week, and I've got about 4 or 5 written up already, so I'm ready to go. I've just got to record them. This took me about 2 hours. Set up the lighting. Quite a perfectionist. I still think the mug is a little bit dark. But yeah, if you haven't got one yet, you know, it's a sexy mug. That it's a real sexy mug. What reality are you in? You can sip it, and at the same time, don't even need to go on YouTube or anything. You can just go straight on the back of the mug, and it's got the QR code that links you to my link, which shows you all the platforms I'm on. So yeah, order one. But well, don't order one. Sign up to Patreon. It's $1.99, cheapest mug in the world. First 100 people get it for $1.99, and then you're on my subscription as a special member. Because after 100, that'll be gone, and that mug cost me more than $1.99. So you're getting a right bargain. And let's face it, mugs don't exactly go out of date or anything else, or you get too fat to wear it, or you get too skinny. Who knows? So yeah. But yeah, let's get into this. This one is called The Gateway Experience, and I won't give too much away right now, but we can get into the episode. And it's basically a CIA document that I've come across, which from the 60s was, well, the army moved in to a institution called the Monroe Institute, and brought in the soldiers, and they developed this document based around the work that this guy Robert Monroe was doing with frequencies and deep meditation. So that is the briefest kind of explanation, just to throw you into it a little bit, but I will go into what it is and tell you what I'm going to be doing with this knowledge, and tell you about the process, tell you about Robert Monroe, and we can go from there. So let's get it.
It's like they've really spun a web. Our consciousness,
I can't describe how it
is slightly false.
To me, it's a slightly darker version.
Because there is
But I could look into my
collective consciousness.
imagination.
Truth is what real reality is based on.
All my crazy.
You're right, it's there.
Just because you say it's like that doesn't mean I'm going to read it.
They still don't know where consciousness is. So when I'm meditating... Yeah, I bet you do.
It's basically your heart.
Really?
Yeah.
So, let's get into it. So I've taken the time to think how far down the rabbit hole I really want to go. And I think I'll probably just keep going until, the shed has to be demolished or the walls cave in. And I think I'll keep going as far down the rabbit hole as Neo went with the red pill, but hopefully I don't end up in a jelly type pod, naked with loads of tubes in me, and then strangled by a machine. Because that won't be. I'm just looking to create content, really. If it gets that dark, I think I'll definitely leave the scene, maybe go Bali, and forget about all this. But yeah. Also found out the other day the name Neo is based on the neocortex, which the neocortex is part of the brain, which is the cerebral cortex, where higher cognitive functioning is thought to originate from. So, the Matrix is probably just all a projection of Neo's mind. And then Morpheus is the god of sleep. And Trinity is like the Trinity, the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son. So she brings it all together. So yeah, they're not just names, mine means Little King, Ryan, gang. So yeah, anyway, starting a new year, it's never easy, it's cold. I think really the new year is like when summer comes, and then that year it's seasonal. Come on, like this Christmas, it's just bollocks. It's just bollocks. Anyway, I hope everyone had a good one and Happy New Year. But yeah, so discovering new realities is the plan, as always. What reality are you in? And I'm going to push my research with the solo pods over the next year, starting with this one, which is the gateway process, which I'll get into. But the idea of the solo pods will be that I'll be chatting some crazy shit, but at the same time I'll have evidence to back it up, which I think is great. Whether you want to take the evidence as gospel or not, that is entirely up to you. But what it will be is like a mythical story and of things that did happen. So we can take it from there, really. So it's episode 9. This will be 2 parts. Part 1 is obviously this one, and then part 2 will be a further explanation, and to explain the story of the gateway and the process of what it actually is, where it come from, and who invented it, is what part 1 will be about. Part 2 will be my experience of doing it, which may take a year. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting, and obviously I'll give you a rundown once I've gone through it. So what is it? What is it, you're probably asking? Well, the gateway process, which in short is 18 tapes, which I'm currently on number 5, and I'm going back, to be honest, to number 1 and number 2 and number 3 quite a lot, because it's quite intense, and the tapes involve some really deep meditation, and I'll get into everything these tapes go through this episode. And the gateway process is based upon frequency and sound and the hemisync structure of the brain, so the left and the right hemisphere, how to hemisync it through different frequency sounds. So basically it's a real advanced meditation, and the tapes are on YouTube, and I'll be putting a playlist on my YouTube, so you can basically go and have a look yourself. So that gives you a little walkthrough, but let's really get into kind of the phenomenon of what it is. My information for this podcast will be coming from a CIA document, which you can go online as well. I'll put the link there. It's for the CIA reading room, which you can look at online as well. They've released about 1,000, they've released thousands of documents from many trials and experiments they done over the years, and they are pretty fucking out there. And every 40 years they have to, by law, release what they've been working on. So to explain the gateway process in a nutshell, I will quote what it says in a couple of paragraphs down in this assessment. And what the document is a document which is basically an assessment done by the US Army and the CIA, and it goes through the whole entire process and what these tapes did to soldiers, and it looks into loads of different types of things, so which we'll go over, and I'll give you a rundown on everything and the timeline and just how fucking nuts it really is. So I quote, fundamentally, the Gateway experience is a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus, coherence to the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres, so as to alter consciousness, moving it outside its physical sphere, so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of, fucking crazy bit, time and space. Yes, time and space. So let's go back in time to see how something like this becomes a reality, shall we? And also, just to note, it was around 50 years ago. So if they were working on this 50 years ago, what the fuck are they doing now? I doubt it's like, sign up, lad. You know, we're not going to teach you any of that crap. That doesn't do anything. You know, who needs time and space when you got a gun? Anyway, so in the 80s, the spy agency investigated, you know, the big bad CIA, the agents that kind of just do whatever they like and no one really knows who they are, what they're doing, or anything. But yeah, cool, just let them do what they want. The Gateway experience technique to alter consciousness and ultimately escape space-time. As you do, or you can imagine, you know, escaping space-time isn't really like a cup of tea or making a cup of tea. You know, in the morning, you know, can you imagine being one of the agents actually and just being like, going to do that day, and your wife's like, what are you doing? What are you doing today then? No, you know, we're just going to, you know, hemi-sync our brain through frequencies, listen to a couple of beats, and yeah, then, you know, astral project and travel around the earth. Should be a laugh. All right, here's your lunch. See you later, love. You know. But yeah, so let's just give you a rundown on the time frame while time's the topic. And thanks to Vice for this one, actually, because Vice has actually come up with a really good timeline. But 9 times out of 10, I look at Vice and they're just chatting some absolute shit. So, just need a little drink before I go into this. But we're looking at the 1950s. So, 1950s, Robert Monroe, a radio broadcasting executive, begins producing evidence that specific sound patterns have identical effects on human capabilities. These include alertness, sleepiness, and expanded states of consciousness. 1956, Monroe forms an R&D division inside his radio program production corporation, RAM Enterprises. The goal is to study sounds that affect on the human consciousness, or have an effect on the human consciousness. He was obsessed with sleep learning, or which exposes sleepers to sound recordings to boost memory of previous learned information. And that's a little bit like what I was doing on the tapes, but I'll get into that really in a little bit. 1958. While experimenting with sleep learning, Monroe discovers an unusual phenomenon. He describes it as sensations of paralysis and vibrations accompanied by bright light. It allegedly happens 9 times over the preceding 6 weeks, and eventually brings him to an out-of-body experience, which is called an OBE, out of body. 1962, Ram Enterprises moves to Virginia and renames itself Monroe Industries. It becomes active in radio station ownership, cable television, and later in the production and sale of audio cassettes. Think about what you're listening to. Think about how you're listening to it. These cassettes contain applied learning. Yeah, these cassettes contain applied learnings from the corporate research program, which is renamed the Monroe Institute. Yeah, so I knew it was Monroe Institute earlier. I was just like, did I get that wrong? 1971, Monroe publishes Journeys Out of the Body, a book that is credited with popularizing the term out of body experiences. So yeah, I mean, guys live quite a life, you know. He didn't go to Thailand. He just jumped out of his body. 1972, a classified report circulates in the US military and intelligence communities. It claims that the Soviet Union is pouring money into research involving ESP and psychokinesis. Yeah. I'm baffed with some of this. Yeah, for espionage purposes. So it's always the Russians, isn't it? Anyway, well, all the Russians just admit it, and all the others get on with it. All the Russians get caught. 1975, Monroe registers the first of several patents concerning audio techniques designed to stimulate brain functions until the left and the right hemispheres become synchronized. Monroe dubs the state hemisync, or hemispheric synchronization, as they called it, and claims it could be used to promote mental well-being or to trigger an altered state of consciousness. I think altered state of consciousness is probably going to be the main thing said on this podcast. So, 1978 to 1984, Army veteran Joseph, you know I'm dyslexic, so when I see a name I'm just like, I think it's McMoneagle. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Contributes to 450 remote viewing missions under Project Stargate. So this is when the Army have caught whiff of what he's doing, swooped in and gone, look mate, can't be fucking around with this. We need some of this, and we're going to help you, we're going to fund you, but we're also going to nick all your shit. So yeah, he's known as Remote View #1, this guy. And this is kind of a whole other story, which I could do a pod on it if people are really interested in this. Then we can go over deeper to that. June 9th, 1983. Now we're in the 80s. Not that I was born then anyway, but still. The CIA report, Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process. It provides a scientific framework for understanding and expanding human consciousness, out-of-body experiments, and there it is, other altered states of the mind. So yeah, it's not exactly light-hearted, this one, especially if you do the tapes. It will be terrifying if you haven't done anything like that before. 1989, remote viewer Angelina Della Fiona Ford helps track down a former customs agent who has gone on the run. She pinpoints his location as Lowell, Wyoming. US Customs apprehend him 100 miles west of that town called Lowell. So basically, she's remote viewing is she's not looking through some sort of telescope. My understanding, and I'll go into it further in this, she's using astral projection to find where someone is. So 2003, the CIA approves declassification of the gateway process report. So that's when this report was released, even though I found out about it last year. But even then, my perception of it was quite hard to kind of deliver a conversation on it. But I've been looking into this for quite some time. 2017, the CIA declassifies 12 million pages. So not a few thousands. I should look at my previous notes, but not a few thousand. 12 million pages. But it's probably a few thousand different experiments and stuff like that it did. 12 million pages of records revealing previously unknown details about the program, which would eventually become known as Project Stargate. Take a fucking breather, eh? Because this shit's just about to go down. So, all this as well, Truth Ninjas, I'm going to start calling you lot for now, is on the CIA reading room. I'm not just spitting crap off Vice. This is a real document, and it is something that's fully tested amongst soldiers, and the tapes are real. And as I said, I'll leave I'll leave all the, the links. I'll probably get a lot less views and get shadow banned. But yeah, that doesn't happen, but it does. Trust me. I keep going off topic, but I keep putting I dress up as the Grinch. I get thousands of views. I talk to a philosopher about psychedelics. I get hundreds. Maybe that doesn't gravitate as much as something that's funny. True, but still, when you talk about drugs and drugs that should be legal, you don't get the views. Anyway, now we know kind of the process. The story behind it. As I said, it's fundamentally to alter consciousness, put yourself in different states, and be able to do some really quite magical things. Basically, I just think it's a guidebook to be a superhuman, and then join the Avengers. Hang around with the Hulk, Captain America, and Iron Man, even though he's dead. But maybe he uploaded his consciousness as well into an altered state of consciousness. So another quote I found pretty interesting. Before I get to that, the gateway process, or the tapes, 18 to be precise, is all about experiencing the non-physical aspects, which mainly are out-of-body experiences, remote viewing, and overall the evolution of consciousness, which I'm still trying to work what it exactly is, and this document scares me even more when it starts to talk about it. It's through these techniques that we learn how powerful our consciousness truly is. And there's a quote, and it says, "Consciousness is the organization and sustaining principle that provides the impetuous guidance to bring and to keep energy in motion." I'm trying to work it out as I'm saying it, to be honest. Consciousness is the organization and sustaining principle that provides the impetus and guidance to bring and keep energy in motion within a given set of parameters, so that a specific reality will result. So my way of thinking, that's like consciousness. It's really developing what we're seeing and using the muscles and everything this avatar has to experience through us, as me, as you, as Dave. So when you're trying to, go down a new path, or the first step usually is through a door or a gateway. So I think that's why it's the gateway process. It's the gateway from being in your body to being out of your body to experience different states of the mind while your body is asleep but your mind is awake. So, as stated, this started with Robert Monroe, and in retrospect, if I started using DMT on a drip and learnt how to travel through the dimensional realms and invited you lot, I think I would be getting a few knocks at the door at the same time from military groups who want to know exactly how to use it for no reason other than controlling it and power and keeping us folks without it. But in doing that, they did, come up and analyse and come up with this document which has been released, but maybe it's a bit funny that it was released in 2003 and this sort of, all this process started many years before that, so it's kind of like it got a bit hidden. But hemisync and frequencies to how to alter the brain, just look at the simple view of it is when you're at a concert, you feel, the music you like. Is it just your ears that are picking up on that? Or is it the frequencies, the feelings that you had around that? And, then you've got all these constant same beats that come out that just work because they're all tapped into a certain frequency that everyone can work with. So, these questions I started with, around this document is, how they're using it, who's using it, what's it being used for, and probably all the questions that the CIA had. Are the Russians using it? Are the Chinese using it? Are they using it against us? Are they using it for us? Are they using it to listen into us? And they've had these technologies for over 60 years, so what they've been doing with it is probably quite a lot, and I'm not sure that any of us will really ever know. But remote viewing and alongside with the usual government mind control where you watch the telly and you think you're being shown a reality or you're just being shown what they want you to see. Still a bit of a program, really, isn't it? Anyway, let's get into the document itself and try and snap the matrix. So I will start with what quote blew my fucking head off, and it says, the point to be made is that the entire human being, brain, consciousness, and all is like the universe which surrounds him, nothing more or less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy fields. So just take that in a minute. So yeah, basically good vibes or bad vibes. But even contrary to what everyone thinks, right? Or everyone knows, the quote ends with, it may not be the brain that produces consciousness, but rather consciousness that creates the appearance of the brain. Oh wait, is he still here? Okay! Sorry if that made you jump. So yeah, just to start on that topic, that, maybe it's not your head that's thinking about your head. Maybe it's consciousness that's thinking about your head, and consciousness ain't even in your head. Anyway, so many. So maybe like the monks, the monks think this, that we're all consciousness. They don't think in male, female, this, that, you're that colour, blah blah blah. It's more everyone's consciousness. And possibly consciousness creates a holographic universe that we all live in, and it's maybe just a big supercomputer. No one really knows yet. When you really start looking into this, no one really knows this part or how far that part goes. So can you leave your body and float if consciousness is outside of your body? Maybe that's how it works. You can float outside of your mind, and then sort of, just float around. So Robert Monroe, going back, was obsessed with experimenting with sound frequencies and how they can impact the human evolution and impact the human mind. And he produced the Gateway tapes, which then the US Army and the CIA made the report and studies on. So basically, it's like learning while asleep, or while your body's asleep. And he was trying to learn while he was asleep. He attempted to improve memory and learning, for years. But in 1950, he got a bit more than he bargained for, and during the experiments, he experienced paralysis, body vibrations, bright lights, like I said, and then he astral projected as high as his ceiling, meaning, in simple terms, his mind or his body, what he thought was his body, was out of his body. So his consciousness expanded and was no longer in the body that he thought. But his mind was fully awake. So I will keep going over the same kind of topic, that it is body asleep, mind awake. And he's probably just riding the wave, dude. This was no doubt freak the hell out of me. I've got close to moving my energy field out a little bit, but I haven't really ever hit the fucking ceiling. It's very hard to put your body asleep while you're awake. Can you imagine trying to do that in your head right now? Just trying to be actually completely numb. And you can do it. It is possible. It's scientifically proven. But yeah, it's a really scary thing to do, to be honest. To, you know, if you ever woke up with sleep paralysis where you're laying there and you can't fucking move and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? You know, or you have one of those dreams when you're falling. It's a similar feeling to that. So from this, he went on to develop beat frequency at the established Monroe Institution, which is where you play two different frequencies in each ear to generate one frequency in order to synchronize the brain into a state, which I'll explain below. Basically, it's your left side and your left and your right hemisphere. In order to be, I'm saying below, like you can see my notes anyway, but I'll explain further. In order to be able to reach these states, the body and the mind have to undergo many of the Monroe studies, or the Monroe studied types of meditations, to get into this kind of position and this kind of, you know, it's not just like, okay, we're going to put you asleep and bang, here you go, in the ceiling. It actually takes quite a lot of concentration, and it's quite a difficult process. And I'm finding even getting past tape 4 is quite complex, and you have to remember they don't lead you through the same process from the beginning, and there's about 3 steps you need to do at the beginning of every single tape, and it's like an affirmation of speaking and humming and breathing, so you have to kind of remember what you're doing, and they don't go back over that. So I'm just trying to learn that point in the minute, testing the boundaries, yo. So in order to be able to reach these states, the body and the mind have to undergo many of the Monroe studies, all right? As most of these techniques are extremely complex, I'll be going over them lightly, and I could do a podcast on each, to be honest, or the meditations that you kind of need to be established on a little bit, or just have an understanding and practice of them a little bit, maybe a year or two before, in order to try and get into this, which I'm glad that I kind of meditated before for about a year and a half. But these are tools to help with our awareness, to reach the right frequencies, to induce these states, and then to alter consciousness. So hypnosis. Everyone knows sort of what hypnosis is, I can gather. But it's a technique that permits the direct access of the sensory motor cortex and the pleasure centers, and the lower cerebral, which is like emotions and portions of the right side of the brain following successful stimulus screening of the function of the left hemisphere of the brain. So the left hemisphere is basically creativity, intuition, art, feeling, imagination, basically where I like to stay, really, without anyone fucking questioning me. And then well, that's the right side of the brain. The left side of the brain is like your analysis, your logic, your facts, maths, training, you know, kind of like the, you know, person talking in your head. I would say that, you know, bruv, you probably shouldn't have that shot, you know, you're struggling to stand up, bruv. So yeah, they work. They obviously work together, but they have different aspects and different ways that they work together. Good cop, bad cop. So basically, with Hemisync, it syncs these parts. So that I'll get to. But under hypnosis, if the left is distracted in a sleep-like state, it allows the hypnotic suggestions without being challenged by the other side. So it's accepted directly. You know, like when you're on holiday or when anyone's like, sleep, you're out. You know, it's that kind of, you can just tell that the person's completely subdued. And this is basically the scientific way of explaining, well, not completely scientific, but, you know, it gives you the logic of why that happens with the brain being in two parts and what's suggestive and what's not, and what does take control and what doesn't allow taking control. So leading on from that, under the same roof, or the skull, these techniques are designed to enable the use of the gateway tapes to manipulate high energy states, which can be achieved if the user continues to work with these tapes over a period of time. So Hemisync, as I said, which basically means the synchronization of the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. How one can use one's vibrations and this can be used as a powerful tool of manifestation. This is achieved via two different frequencies in the ear, which is quite a relaxing state, I must say. But it's a bit like, and then another one starts, and then as they're both playing, it's almost like it goes, but it's both of them playing on their own, and then playing together, they synchronize and they make more of a wave kind of sound. So that's what I'm listening to on an evening. Perfectly normal. So Transcendental Meditation works in a different way, in which you are to focus your concentration on the process of drawing energy up through the spinal cord, much like the Kundalini effect, if you know about that one, but I could do a pod on that later to explain. But this practice can take up to 5 years, and I don't wish to go into the full details. As I said, I could explain it on an actual pod. But it's performed as it's a lot of breathing, a lot of different exercises before it, but the practice can take a really long time to get to, and it's basically moving up your energy fields and bringing that energy from your root all the way up to your crown chakra. So these aren't exactly what the process is, but these are some of the techniques that people would need to know, and these are kind of the states that some people get put in through the tapes. But the tapes actually have, out of the 18 tapes, actually have very different processes to this, I say. They went on to discuss biofeedback, which to me seems pretty fucking nuts. I haven't heard of it before, but the technique teaches the left to gain access to the right, rather than suppressing the left, like in hypnosis. In short, once this state is gained, you can block pain, healing. You can be enhanced. Malignant tumors can apparently be suppressed and ultimately destroyed. So that would be goodbye, Big Pharma. The body pleasure centers can also be stimulated. So that's interesting. And a variety of specific psychological results may be achieved as well. So basically, super fucking human shit. So I'm currently on tape 3. I've gone to tape 4 and 5, but I haven't learnt the beginnings of the process really that well enough to keep proceeding, and it is a bit nerve-wracking at the same time. But I'm currently on tape 3, and I'm going to keep going over it, to be honest, and learn as much as I can. But I haven't got to any of the real, like, gritty stuff, which will be in part 2. Like astral projection, and like I'll be like, yeah, I just went to Saturn, mate, just had a little fly around. But a tape the tapes do remind me of like the Dharma initiative, which if you've watched Lost, they're like really old school, and they start with this, and then it's like, it's proper fucking nuts. So they're really like weird, and I think it's like a train, or when you're in the cinema, and you got the Universal, the old school. It was like I don't know, like a ball, like a comet flying round the Earth, and it's like a churning. And then Robert Monroe is obviously speaking on the tape, leading you through what the process is and what you need to do in each tape, and he hypnotizes you. Really, I feel like you're being hypnotized after the Hemi sync, and that's where you hear the two sounds. So what's in them? But you're like, what really can you do? What is fucking going on? What is Ryan talking about? So here's like a rundown on the kind of tapes. And as I said, this is a bit of a like, when you see series 1 and you see the first episode, it's the pilot. They don't know if it's going to work or not. So it is a little bit like throwing loads of facts at you, and then I will much prefer to obviously tell you the fucking craziness that's gone down from the 18 tapes that I've done, or I'll just be like that, part 2 is going to be a bit short because they were just all a bit of a fugazi and nothing really happened. But I can tell you on tape number 3 already, I've had my whole body was pretty much asleep, which was and I was very alert and very awake. So it's kind of like, I don't know, being in a wheelchair and not feeling your legs. Maybe, I don't know. It's a really weird feeling. But yeah, as I said, I've been dabbling with meditation, or the meditation world, for around 2 years now, and I haven't really touched the surface. I don't think. I think if you look at school, if you was only in school for 2 years, you literally know fuck all. I didn't know fuck all for the whole 10 years I was in it, but it's definitely taught me how to sleep better, concentrate better, work things out better, understand myself better, learn how to deal with my thoughts better. So if you're not doing it, do it, because I think it's something we should have been taught. It's something that it should be taught, and I'm going to continue to try and break the boundaries on exactly what the human body can do with it. And I think these tapes are the closest thing I've found to anything that really grasps that kind of research I actually need, or I've found the evidence within that. But the amount of time and consideration needed is tricky when you're in a city and things never sleep, and but it's just me and Alan really. Oh yeah, by the way, little thing I found out today, that Alan is actually not an Alan. Alan is actually a she. So, but I'm still going to call him Alan Watts. Maybe he's non-binary. It's 2022. Maybe he could go that way. I'm sure that would piss off some people, but whatever. He's only a tortoise. But yeah, so going back, I have done sort of body asleep, mind awake, hypnosis a little bit, but not really. But there is hypnosis meditation you can do as well. And transcendental meditation I've done, but it's quite hard. It's a lot of concentration. But sometimes I think you're just doing these meditations and you don't actually go, oh, that is that type of meditation. Like, you're just leading yourself through your own process. But yeah, all of it's pretty crazy. But I think crazy is only the unknown, isn't it? It's only like, okay, well, that's not something I was taught, or that's not something on the news, or that's not, but it's all in the movies. And I think a lot of these things do have a little bit of truth in them. And directors, I find, are just good storytellers. And if you start looking into a lot of films and everything else, they are based on quite a lot of, stories that haven't been uncovered, or, stuff like this. A CIA document on the Gateway process. You could do a film around this that would be pretty fucking interesting. Like, all these soldiers, astral projecting, and with the CGI you got now, you can do anything. But basically, the gateway process begins by teaching the individual or the participant to isolate all his concerns at the start in a sort of visualization device, which they call the energy conversion box. Basically, a box. You know, have you ever heard anyone say, "Oh, I'll put all my problems in a box," you know, and shut the box, and then you don't think about them? Well, you're basically doing that in a mental thought process. Basically, where you put all your problems, so your debt, your rent, your stress, you know, your bullshit, all the stuff you're just like, look, for the next half an hour, me and you, mate, nothing. Not going to hear a fucking word from you. So yeah, you put them all in a box. After this, you're introduced to a method of encouraging the mind and body to strive to achieve a state of resonance through this utterance of a single tone, or it's like a monotonous kind of protracted humming sound that sets up a feeling of vibration, particularly in the head, which I reckon my housemates really enjoy. Or I did tell them, look, I'm doing this thing at the minute, it's going to be a bit weird, and you might hear me just going, basically you breathe in and then you breathe out and go as you're breathing out, and they probably hear that through the door and think, what the fuck is this guy doing? But yeah, so it's a humming, really. I mean, when you've heard people meditate, it's not that mad. People literally hum, you know. It's resonance tuning, it's called, as it is called a humming along with a chorus or such a sound. They're contained on the gateway tape, so that's how you start getting into the kind of experience of what these tape involves. But those two things are the first two things you do on every tape. So, and then following this, the participant or myself is exposed to the gateway affirmation and is encouraged to repeat it to himself as he hears it repeated on the tape. So he says this, you say that. This affirmation is a statement to the effect that the individual, this bit's a little bit mad, the individual realizes that he is more than merely his physical body, and that he deeply desires to expand his consciousness. Then you're introduced to the Hemi. As I explained earlier, at this point my body feels extremely heavy and really relaxed, almost like I'm not in it. I'm floating. It's like a floating feeling, but it's also like a little bit like you're a bit nervous, because you're a little bit like, hang on a minute, this doesn't feel fucking right at all. Like, why? Where's my legs? Can I wiggle my toes? And you think to move your body, but you can't, or it's like you don't want to, in a sort of sense. It's strange, but yeah, it's a bit like swimming to the deep end of the pool, and then you kind of, you sink to the bottom, let all the air out, you can just kind of float there. That's kind of how it feels, like a weightlessness, which you can do flotation tanks in London as well, which are like that. Anyway, so once all this is achieved, and you've done the Hemi sync, and that noise has gone through, and you're completely relaxed and your eyes are closed. Once all this is achieved, you are invited to sort of envisage, this is I think take 3 or take 4, creating an energy balloon. And my nan used to tell me about this. She's like, if you don't like being around people, just create I used to think my nan was nuts, and now it's all in a CIA document. Create a sort of, people call it different things, but in this it's called an energy balloon around your body, to protect yourself from bad vibes, because we don't like those bad vibes. And when you're fully in the zone, like this, or like I was, it's almost like you can move that energy around to parts of your body, or feel you'll feel it's coming from a certain area and move it to the next. So like anyone I say, if they don't believe in energy of the body, your heart's not just pumping by itself. You do produce energy. You can be lower in energy, and take a minute and just put your hands out and literally just focus on your hands. Just literally sit there with your hands in front of you and focus on your hands, and you can feel a sort of vibrating or kind of small energy in your hands, and then see if you can move that to your leg or move it around. And that's basically what it is. But the energy balloon, the best way to explain what I felt is, there's all diagrams on this document as well, which I'll put up as well in the video afterwards. Or I'll be like, look, what, there it is. Proper YouTuber. But yeah, it's basically like a field, like an energy field around you. And whether this is just you, thinking of it, but this is a CIA document, so it's soldiers, it's US Army, it's serious. Like, they believed in this. So yeah, you can. It's there to kind of protect you from like an aura, I suppose. It sets up a pattern very reminiscent to the cosmic egg, which I'll explain in part 2, because that's like a whole nother fucking pod as well. But not only does it enhances the bodily energy flow and encourages early achievement of a suitable resonant state, but it also is designed to provide protection against conscious entities. So when you're astral projecting, or you're in a land of the unknown, like I was talking to Dr. Peter about the machine elves, when you jump into the DMT zone, I think maybe this is a similarity that you can do sober. And maybe this sort of balloon is to protect yourself. So I think when people jump into the DMT world and they see these fucking things or whatever's going on, these are kind of certain processes that they should put the body through before they do that, because like Jordan Peterson said, it's actually really dangerous just to jump into a psychedelic world without understanding where you're going or what you're doing, because as they've been illegal for so long, we really don't have the research on it either. So basically, it says these entities, they could be possessing lower energy levels, which the participant might encounter in the event that he has achieved an out-of-body state. So, again, bringing you down on those low-level vibes. I mean, it serves a precautionary purpose in the unlikely event that the participant's first out-of-body experience involves direct projection outside the terrestrial sphere. So the tape has different focus points, starting with focus 3, focus 10. So it's like, now you have learnt focus 3. Now you have learnt focus 10. And then it kind of hypnotizes you to say, it always says, you can now reach focus 10 by visualizing 10 in a circle in your head, and then just say 10 in your head, and you will reach that state. I think that is, for me, still, even though talking about this is still pretty far-fetched, but, when you have people hypnotized, they will always end the hypnotherapy with, from now on, you will, whenever you smoke a cigarette, you will now throw up or feel like you're going to be sick, and you will never smoke a cigarette again, because this feeling will be so detrimental to you smoking cigarettes that you will not do it again. And then wake up, bang. So I think it works in the same way that if you're fully involved in these tapes and you're fully open to being hypnotized, then if you remember the pattern or remember the movement that you have to do to put yourself into focus 3 or focus 10 or focus 12, there's loads, 15, 16, and you do the previous points, which is, the resonant humming, the the affirmation and the breathing first as well. I do a little bit of that, but basically the first 3, the energy box, if you do them first, then maybe that's how you can get into it. But I am, again, just got into these tapes and just learning it as well. But that's as far as I got. And also, like, the other night I did do it was fully, my body was fully, felt fully paralyzed, so it did freak me out a little bit. And I was like, okay, bruv, maybe just research a bit more. It does have a big disclosure on this document as well, like, this can be really harming to the participant. So tread lightly in a certain sense. So yeah, I'm not putting them out there for just people to anyone just jump on it. It's like, but also if you're not even open to it, then you'd probably just be listening to something that you're not really going to pick up on either, or know how to put yourself in the states. But the best thing to do is probably headspace first if you're looking to get into meditation, and go slowly. Because we're so unused to things like this that putting yourself into things like this probably wouldn't be the best idea. So, advanced techniques, right? Let's get into the crazy town. Having reached focus 10, the participant is now ready to endeavor to achieve a state of sufficient expanded awareness to begin actually interacting with dimensions beyond those associated with his experience in physical reality. So basically, you're going to leave all of this and you're going to be out there in space somewhere. So this state is called focus 12. Why don't I just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? It's like focus 3, focus 10, focus 12. But yeah, focus 12 involves consciousness, or focus 12, sorry, involves conscious efforts on his part, while additional forms of pink and white noise enter the sound stream, being directed into his ears from the gateway tape. Once the participant has achieved this state of greatly expanded awareness, he is ready to begin employing a series of specific techniques or tools, as the Monroe Institute characterizes them, which enable him to manipulate his newly found expanding awareness to obtain practical, useful feedback of value for promoting self-discovery and personal growth. The specific techniques involved are described individually below. So that was a direct quote from the document as well. But the first one, I'm going to go over these, and then obviously that's what I will be learning, and then that's what I'll be discussing in part 2, once I can tell you what these things really do and whether I'm a superhuman that's going to join the Avengers or not. So, problem solving. This technique involves, this is actually also, this is actually taken from a website which I will add at the bottom as well, which is a person that really put thought and obviously done the whole process and then wrote up on it as well, because obviously I couldn't explain to you what everything is without doing it yet. But problem solving. This technique involves identifying fundamental problems which the individual wishes to see solved, filling his expanding awareness with his perception of these problems, and then projecting them out into the universe. In this way, the individual enlists the assistance of what Monroe calls his higher self, which, I don't know, maybe your subconscious or your quantum consciousness, in other words, his expanded consciousness, to interact with the universe hologram. So yeah, this document also goes on to explain the holographic universe and how the mind is just looking at a hologram. But yeah, we'll get to that. To interact with the universal hologram to obtain the information required to solve the problem. So that's just problem solving that you can do in this state. So basically, you obviously do the first process, which is the first tools to put yourself into this condition, and these are techniques under that condition which you can put yourself into and do. Patterning. This technique involves the use of consciousness to achieve desired objectives in the physical, emotional, or intellectual sphere. I need to work out what the intellectual sphere is, but I think it's where you end up when you are fully body asleep, mind awake, or out of it. It involves concentration on the desired objective while in a focus 12 state. Extension of the individual's perception of that objective into the whole expanded consciousness, and it is and its projection into the universe with the intention that the desired objective is already a matter of established achievement, which it is destined to be realized within the same time frame specified. So Monroe's trainers caution against attempting to force the pace of this process, because the individual could succeed in dislocating his existing reality with drastic consequences. So when you look at Inception, they have put something, where it's about putting an idea into someone's head, or you affirming that this situation is actually what your reality is. I think what I'm trying to deduce from this. And when you see in Inception, he does that to his wife, and then he makes her believe that the world that they're in the dream world, isn't real, or is real, so that they leave that world. And then when she's out, that thought, or that, it's a bit like OCD, which I have. You can have a thought that just does not fuck off, constantly. It's obsessive compulsive disorder, and that can expand and keep going, and it can be a dangerous thing. So I think with this, it's definitely a dangerous thing with patterning to work out what that is, and that might not be what it is at all. I need to go through it to explain it more. I can deduce what it's saying, but I think thoughts and descriptions are different to feelings and experience. Color breathing. So fundamentally, in terms of practical application, it is a healing technique which is designed to restore the body and to enhance its physical capabilities by balancing, revitalizing, and retuning bodily energy fluids or flows. It is predicted on the principle that the body's electromagnetic field is capable of altering its resonance pattern so as to entertain the energy from the Earth's electrostatic field for its own use. So if you've ever heard of like grounding, where people stand on the soil and they pick up the energy of the Earth, there is energy, there is an electromagnetic field, but that's another one. I'll go into that because that's quite an interesting one on another pod. So yeah, as I said, I'm just briefly explaining over these because they are quite in depth, but I just think they're fucking nuts. Energy bar tool. This I feel I've done prior, where I was doing astral projection course, and once in the right state, or in Focus 10 as they were putting this, it's kind of like you have chakras, right? You have 11 energy points across the body. You can pulsate this energy, so it's like a you can kind of pulsate it, and the energy in the body can be located, and you can focus it on certain areas like the third eye, or which is here, or the heart, and it actually feels like a heart pumping on your forehead. So, and I've only done it a few times with this astral projection course, which is on Udemy for 11 quid. So, anyone that listens to this and just goes, oh, it's bollocks, it's just like, you know what, just go do it, and then you'll realise, that's actually, I experience it, and then come back. But as soon as you throw the word bollocks and bullshit and stupid, you're trying to like deflect it and not really think about it being possible, because it's not really, you maybe not come across it before. And that might be ignorant of me to say that you would think that, but just that's a lot of the time what I come across in certain circumstances. And I just think, just see what we really are. Just have a little gander, you know what I mean? Don't be scared of it. But yeah, it just feels like it's pulsating. And there is a scientific term of what actually happens to the pineal gland and where it's crystallizing. And I think one part of the brain starts to vibrate, and that's why it's really happening, I think. But I'd have to really go into that and research it and then explain to you properly. But yeah, the participant then extrudes this dot, so you'd focus on a sparkling dot in your sight of mind, like a vibrating cylinder, and then that energy, which he then uses to channel to force from the universe to selected parts of his body for the purposes of healing. So you can. When I was doing it, this course I've done before is nowhere near as good as these tapes, but it did get you to understand, okay, this is where I can put my energy, I can move it there, I can move it there, I can move it there. And it gave me that realization, but it didn't tell me anything about healing or anything else like that. We're now in the world of Wim Hof and ice baths and, guys that get injected with E. coli, and then he can remove it from his body just by simple meditation and breathing. But unfortunately, we've all sort of been coaxed into drugs, and pharmaceuticals are the best way. And I think there's a lot better and alternative ways, in my opinion, that things like this are actually really good for you. So remote viewing. In addition, the energy bar tool is used as a portal for initiating a follow-on technique called remote viewing. In this context, the participant turns his bar of energy into a whirling vortex through which he sends his imagination. It sounds like I'm reading from a comic book. His imagination in such of a new and illuminating insights. So basically looking for shit. The apparent purpose of the symbolism involved in the vortex seems to be the cue for the subconscious, and convey to it instructions as to what the participant wishes to do. So, like, are you talking to a swirl in your head, or, anyway, so the participant wishes to do, but in terms of non-verbal symbols which the right hemisphere of the mind is capable of understanding. So, I've seen a program on Amazon where this woman goes into this state, and she finds out where this other woman is, who was there on the same thing. So I don't know how they did it in the first part, but she picks up on where she is and locates where she is. She visualizes where she is. I think I'm going to have to maybe have a breather for a glass of water. Do I have some water? God, I've been speaking for an hour, so it's just pretty hard. But yeah. So remote view, basically seeing where people are without seeing where people are. Living body map, and just to stop as well, I am, I don't really give a fuck about being stupid around this, because this shit is fucking nuts. So if I make mistakes or whatever, it's all a learning curve, innit? Living body map. This technique provides amplification for the application of the energy bar tool as a means of healing specific areas or systems of the human body. The configuration of the participant's body is imagined, and then the various major systems, such as the nervous and circulation systems, are envisaged in appropriate colors within the confines of the outline being held in the imagination. So possibly you're imagining your own body as a vessel, in a sense. But yeah, that one I'll have to get back to on work it out, and I'm going to leave you with the last ones that are on it, because these ones I can't even fathom yet and really understand. But I think part 2 is going to be like, but yo, what is going on here? Basically, it's going to be like that sound I just made. Like, what the fuck? What? Anyway, reality has just slipped from underneath me. There's still more in that process, but this one, Focus 15, travel into the past. Focus 21, travel into the future. So time travel, basically, in 60 years ago. 60-year time travel. That's what they were doing. Yeah? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So I think I'll leave it on time travel till next time, my Truth Ninjas. And yeah, there is a reason I'm calling you that, and we'll get to that as well. I'm gonna be telling you a little bit about that. That's what I'll be starting. Also got a website coming out. But yeah, the beginning of this report also explains the holographic universe, as I said, dimensional travel, and the cosmic edge, which I will be doing in part 2. Or maybe I do a part 2 on the holographic universe. Let me know after this. Let me know what you think. Drop me a message. Drop me a comment. Just say, what really interested you the most. Because obviously I'm going into this blind. You might think, bruv, you fucking bored the pants off me on that one. Or, certain things you want to find out even more of, let me know. But yeah, I'll go into the process of what the cosmic egg is, maybe in part 2, and then also have a part 3 on the experiences I've gone through, on all the processes and what I've learned and whether it's safe to do. But I do feel I'm going into this a bit naive, and maybe should take it a bit more seriously on how dangerous it might be. But yeah, to end it, it does seem like we're living in a world of hidden knowledge, and I think the internet is the new library, even though people think that you're just a conspiracy theorist when you're looking over this stuff, even though that word was weaponized by the CIA, and it throws everyone off when you start talking about anything apart from the common fucking sense that we're surrounded by. But all this information I'm willing to dig into, I'm willing to find out, I'm willing to keep going as deep as, it goes. Because you're not going to find this on your daily dose of Philip and Holly, bless them. Even though they do bring on flat earthers and David Icke, and they do kind of try and go through some of these crazy topics, but I don't think there's enough of it. And also, how much really can you take of this on a weekly basis? How much can you really take of me on a weekly basis? I can just talk for Britain. But also with a good collective research, which I call the internet, social media, TikTok seems to be just exploding this kind of shit, and then I worry about, is that a new narrative, just as I was to get believing even more bullshit that might not even be out there. But if it's on the CIA reading room, maybe should I trust the CIA? Who knows? But nevertheless, I find it interesting and seriously tricky to understand in this dumbed down state that I'm in, through learning about science, maths, and English, and then only to go and work for someone else, and that would be it. But yeah, I'm not slagging off the whole entire educational system. There is a lot of good in it, but I think meditation, like in China or different countries, should have been taught from a very young age in England, especially eating at the right times, eating the right food. Why is school food so shit? 10 million podcasts to go. I'm telling you, I've got loads. But my next solo pod is more of a story on another person, but as the Matrix has come out and I'm completely fascinated with it, I wanted to do one on the Matrix, and I was trying to get hold of the directors, thinking I was Russell Brand and could just talk to anyone. But yeah, this is I actually unraveled the story. Well, I didn't personally, but unraveled for myself and through my research that the directors of The Matrix and the director of Terminator both stole those stories, split them up, not together, not working as a trinity, but they split them up and made a 2-part story, and it's actually from a book called The Third Eye. So I'll be doing a podcast on the woman who actually wrote the book, called Sophia Stewart, and I've been emailing her once a week, and I hope that I can get her on to obviously have a conversation about her story. And she's been in court cases, and she owns the copyright, so she's got a book called The Mother of the Matrix, which I'm going to call the pod The Mother of the Matrix, and she's based herself on the Oracle. But I mean, if she can come up with both those fucking stories, like this woman is dope as fuck. So yeah, I will be diving into that next week. Every week, 5 o'clock Sunday, there will be a podcast. I will not quit. I will not stop, and I will find out shit that's going to make you go, what the fuck is he doing in that shed? And as I said, the only reason I can keep doing it is if you sign up to Patreon and you get yourself a mug, and I'll send it out in the post and it'll be with you. And, you know, it's still cold, a couple of brews, perfect for this kind of weather, isn't it? So, yeah, just help me out a bit. It's $1.99. If you're going to listen. I really don't want to turn on ads. If I could get a really solid Patreon following, that would help me out massively. And, you know, we can go from there and keep going, and I can keep teaching you, you can keep teaching me. And, yeah, it would really, really help me out if people drop comments on the YouTube, drop comments on anywhere really, even DM me just on this one and let me know what you thought. So, yeah. Peace out for now. And I can't remember what my outro is. Is it this one? Yeah, that one. These people, I'm gonna have to sit here for
It's like they've really spun a web. Our consciousness
I can't describe how it is.
is slightly false
To me, it's a slightly darker version,
because there is a
but I could look into my
collective consciousness.
imagination.
Truth is what real reality is based on.
Art in art as well.
All my crazy.
Your art is there.
Just because you say it's like that doesn't mean I'm going to read it like that.
They still don't know where consciousness is. So when I meditate, yeah, I bet you do.